Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How you doing today, Steve? It seems like we were just here doing an episode.
It certainly does, Ben. It certainly does, FiST Chat fans. Hello again and welcome to another episode.
Yes, this is the episode for the second week, so now you would have caught up now that it's being broadcast. But we'll be back in a couple of weeks because we're going to have two weeks off shortly because our schedules can't quite get us together for that time, but we should be back in the first week of December. But until then, we've still got an episode to get through. So don't forget our website, FiSTChat.com. You can get all of our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, SoundCloud, and our RSS feeds, and our videos on YouTube, Vimeo, and Digicosm TV. You can interact with us on Twitter, Google Plus, and Facebook, so I'd love to hear from you there. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, hosted on Amazon, only 99 cents, and helps to support the show. And we've got our supplementary content, weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And if you think anyone's interested in our weekly discussions on film, science, and technology, feel free to send them to our website. We'd be greatly appreciative of that. Now, we're going to change tack and have a slightly different topic that I don't think we've actually covered this before. Basically, forensic science and how do you identify what started a bushfire? Now, in Australia, this is of paramount importance during summer season, particularly in New South Wales, Victoria. There would be a bit of a history in South Australia as well, I would have thought, of bushfires.
Certainly have been some serious bushfires in South Australia, but generally not as many, I guess, heavily residential areas are the threat.
Yeah,
typically.
A lot of, I mean, even in New South Wales and Victoria, they're quite rural as well, and it's always a battle, to get those fires contained and to protect as many lives as possible. But as part of that effort, in terms of, firefighters will battle huge blazes, but there's also teams of fire forensic investigators, and they will set about trying to figure out how these fires started to begin with. And I guess part of that's also research in terms of how do we prevent these things in the future. Obviously, there have been occasions in the past where they've been deliberately lit, which you can't really do anything about that. But because if someone's hell bent on wanting to light a fire, you can't stop that. But if it's more of an accidental thing or just the conditions were right for a fire to start, then perhaps information that can be gathered from these investigators can actually help in the future in terms of bushfire prevention.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's amazing what they have the technology to do now, and how they can even predict the way fires will behave once they start. And that's one of the reasons it's important to determine how these fires start. But in the same way that, if anyone has seen the movie Backdraft, the way that they can predict how a fire was started, or arson, in terms of arson in a building, whether it was electrical, whether it was a fault, whether it was deliberate, they can do exactly the same things in a wildfire or bushfire situation.
So is this a good example of, say, scientific technique, the idea that they have to go down to the sort of like such minute detail in plucking out what they need to know as far as, what caused the fire and whatnot, and how painstaking that work must be?
Well, yeah, I guess it would be to a certain extent. If you think about car crash investigations or even aircraft accident investigations, where the investigators come in, they piece everything together and look for the evidence. The physical evidence will always tell you a lot, and the bushfire is no different. If bushfire, say, starts from lightning or from a spark from somebody's exhaust, that they can actually, pretty much pinpoint the spot it did start. If they have the basic information to start with. So, where was the fire first spotted? If they know what direction that the fire was burning in, then chances are you can actually just track straight back to the very start of the fire. Because the fire won't usually burn in a circular way. It'll burn from that point and out, and then only go in one direction. Yeah. And they can work out. They'll know which way the wind was blowing at the time. And they'll look for telltale signs if it's arson, which are usually very obvious. So yeah, it's I guess a real a real technique that they have going, and that's how they work it out.
It's interesting too that scientific investigation is such a precise process, yet we're dealing with some very unpredictable behaviour in terms of fire itself, and also the weather, because the weather plays a factor in blowing fires across vast distances, and it seems to be, a bit of a trade-off there. I would have thought that, you can figure out how it all happened, but it can also be hard to put in certain techniques for prevention when, to a certain extent, it's very unpredictable how bushfires spread and the conditions under which they can start.
Well, that's right. I mean, I guess they're the typical base conditions, which is a hot day, dry conditions, and, later in the year when you've got more dry fuel, the essential components. But they do a lot of research. So there's a cooperative research centre for bushfire research in Australia.
Yeah.
And, they do all sorts of testing there, right from simulating bushfires in little plots, in closed-off plots where they would follow the start of a fire to it going quite large. So they can work out all these things. They can work out how hot the fire was, burning, within the first few minutes of it having started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's something that we're sort of, I guess we can be in awe of, and we have to tip our hats to them because they do an incredible job in sort of finding out as much information as possible, for the future, and hopefully preventing as many bushfires as they can, because especially in our climate, they're all too common, unfortunately.
Exactly.
All right, we might move on to our news bites. We'll draw a line under that. Now, this was interesting. Netflix is thinking of making original movies now too, from Gizmodo, and this probably isn't too much of a stretch. They've been working on their own TV series that they distribute directly via their platform. House of Cards being the good example of that. High budget TV show. Just release all the episodes all at once. It was a unique way of delivering a TV show that's different to the traditional manner. And now Netflix content boss Ted Sarandos is interested in breaking into movies, and he thinks that there can be sort of a situation where they could fund a big budget film and release it simultaneously on Netflix and in the cinema, which you're wondering why that hasn't kind of happened yet, because it's sort of going that way. I would have thought the only thing that I would have thought is that if you're going to make it available on, say, Netflix and in the cinema, I'd say most people are just going to watch it on Netflix unless it's more expensive to watch it on Netflix than in the cinema.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I mean, probably because from a Hollywood business model, the reason it's never been done is because it wouldn't work. It would kill your cinematic release, and I think that's what Lucas and Spielberg were talking about a few months back when they were saying, look, we'll be making films straight to DVD kind of thing, And I think that's for Netflix with their business model, they probably could make a film, and they probably could do a simultaneous release, in the cinema and on Netflix. But the question is, why would you?
Yeah.
If you're going to make it for distribution via Netflix,
just do it that way.
Just do it that way. And I would have thought anyway there would have been more money in making a 12-part television-style series over one 90-minute film. So I don't think they've got their model quite right. But hey, if they've got the money and they want to have a crack, let them.
This might be the closest that they come to breaking the stigma that a film is only a film if it gets released in the cinema and it's shot on film. I was reminded of Quentin Tarantino once being interviewed and saying that he's getting out. He's thinking of getting out of the film business and retiring from film directing because, he didn't sign up for making films digitally and getting them streamed, because as far as he's concerned, that's just TV, which I thought was a little bit pretentious, to be honest, because as long as you're telling a good story and shoot it well, then you got a good film. But maybe this might be one of the methods that breaks the stigma for that, because, you know, there is a stigma attached to straight to DVD, straight to video that, you know, that this might hopefully be able to break.
Well, I don't think it will, because if you want to make a big budget Hollywood film with everything we love, from big name people to great effects, film like Gravity, for instance, if you want to make a film like that, you need to charge every person that sees it $9 or $10, which is what the studio is getting back every time it's shown in a cinema. When I show it at your place via Netflix, what are we paying? $6 for the whole family to watch it? Ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work. I'm just putting it out there. Netflix, tell us your business model, because you know, you're going to be, Netflix will be making cheap films, Ben. That's, you know.
But is that like purely from a dollar angle? What about this idea that it's only a real film if it's shown in the cinema?
Ben, when was the last time you watched a film with no one you'd ever heard of in it, written by somebody and directed by somebody that you'd never heard of, that you thought was a really good film?
Yeah.
And you saw it straight on DVD and you thought, gee, that should have been in the cinema.
Yeah.
Good luck, Netflix.
Point taken. Point taken. All right, we might move on to our science news bite now. From the ABC, snakes light up the monkey brain. Humans' superior vision is the result of an evolutionary battle between snakes and our primate ancestors. Essentially, primates and humans can detect snakes more quickly, even in a cluttered scene. And the key is because a primate or a human's brain is much more larger, which allows them to process things visually, and thus they can obviously see snakes, for example, moving around on the ground. What do you think about this, Steve? Just an interesting window into our evolution?
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, that they can pick stuff like this up and work it out. And yeah, I guess it is an amazing window into evolution. It's, you know, we forget that it really wasn't that long ago. We were just animals out there on the plains as well. And it's really only been in the last, you know, 50,000 years or so that we've sort of moved away from being primitive in the way that we live and interact with the environment, although it might be a bit more sophisticated than the way we do today. But, you know, and become the technology beings we are today. So it's an interesting reminder that, you know, yeah, we were very much affected by our environment, and that's what evolution's all about.
Absolutely. Although we might not be able to run away from snakes as easily as what we did before, depending on how good our health is. But that's another topic entirely.
That is another topic.
All right. Finally, our tech news bite from themotorreport.com.au. Volvo C30 electric tests wireless charging technology. Essentially, a Volvo with a C30 electric taking part in a successful wireless charging system. The test comes in addition to news from the Swedish car maker earlier this month outlining the development of body panel batteries designed to save space and weight. So I'm guessing, you know, you sort of roll up, you park, and you don't have to plug it into anything. Isn't it? They have like, you know, on a smaller scale, you've got, you know, computer mice that you can put onto a charging pad. It's basically a similar sort of thing, isn't it? Just on a larger scale.
Yep, exactly like that. The other thing you might be familiar with is the induction cooker. So it's an electric cooktop, but not through heat. And you have to put a pot with a lot of steel or iron in it onto the cooker, and the electromagnetic waves basically create heat. Well, this is the same thing. Basically, in the bottom of the car, you pull up, you park over the mat, and on that mouse thing for a while they had a mat which you could charge phones on and things. Same principle as that. You get out, go shopping. When you come back, you've got a $50 bill and a car full of charge.
Well, that would certainly
it's not that severe.
Well, that would certainly take the hassle out of this idea of charging your car, wouldn't it?
Well, it does. It means you can have many points. So literally in a car park, you could set up a whole lot of these and people could, you know, fill up while they shop. Because remember, charging is still going to be slower than going to the fuel pump. So, you know, you could either have one in your garage, you know, personal one, but yeah, they could supply them then in car parks as well, and then you're actually getting something that you're paying for while you shop.
Imagine that shopping malls, car parks also become the new fuel stations of the future. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And look, we're not far away from electric cars. These are the sorts of technologies that, just like your iPhone actually doesn't last very long without you having to plug it back in. Neither do electric cars, but this sort of technology is the sort of game changer that allows you to take your car anywhere because it'll always be being charged. You don't need a power point. You don't need to plug it in.
Absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Anytime, FiST Chat fans, if you think Netflix can do it, Netflix, if you think you can do it, tweet us at FiST Chat.
Yeah, we might try it. Well, actually, send the money to us. We'll make the film for you.
And we'll release it on Netflix.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next time.